storm had been creeping in since late afternoon, a bruised sky rolling heavy over the Texas plains. Cole McGraw rode with his collar turned high, his oilskin coat doing little to keep the rain from seeping through. It had been a long day of mending fences and wrangling stray cattle, and the ache in his shoulders matched the ache in the sky. He'd just crossed the dry creek bed when he spotted the shape ahead, small, hunched, moving unsteadily through the grass. At first he thought it was a coyote, or maybe a deer caught in the storm, but when the next flash of lightning lit the land, he saw it was a woman. She was barefoot, her dress torn, her hair tangled like dark vines down her back. The rain came harder now, pelting the earth and turning the dirt to thick mud. Cole urged his horse closer, his hand resting on the grip of his revolver more from habit than suspicion. "Miss?" he called out through the downpour. She turned her head slowly. Even from a distance he could see her eyes, wide and hollow like she'd been running from something for a long time. "Please," she said, her voice barely rising above the wind. "Please help me." He swung off the horse, sloshing through the muck toward her. "You hurt?" She shook her head, or maybe she nodded. It was hard to tell in the rain. "Just cold. So cold." "Come on," he said, looping his arm around her shoulders. "There's a barn up ahead. You'll dry off there." He helped her onto his horse, leading them both through the mud and wind until the outline of his old barn appeared through the haze, leaning slightly to one side, but still standing strong. He pushed the door open, guided her inside, and tied the horse near the wall. The scent of hay, leather, and dust filled the air. He struck a match and lit a lantern hanging by the post. The flame flickered uncertainly, casting a warm circle of light that barely pushed back the darkness. "Sit here," he said, motioning to a hay bale. "You got a name, miss?" She hesitated, then murmured, "Lila." Cole froze. The name hit him like a thrown stone. For a moment he could hear nothing but the rain hammering on the tin roof. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to breathe. It was a common enough name, he told himself. "Just coincidence, you're lucky I found you," he said, setting his hat aside. "This storm's mean as a kicked mule. Where you from?" She lowered her gaze to the dirt floor. "Nowhere," she said softly. "I was on the road." Her hands trembled as she pulled a shawl tighter around her shoulders. It was old, frayed at the edges, and heavy with rain. Something about it looked familiar, too, the weave, the faded pattern, but he couldn't place it. "You hungry?" he asked, trying to shake off the unease crawling up his spine. She didn't answer, just looked up at him with those deep, knowing eyes. "You live here alone?" "For now." The lantern hissed softly, the shadows stretching and contracting with every flicker. Cole moved to fetch a tin cup of water, his boots scuffing across the floor. When he turned back, she was standing instead of sitting, facing the back of the barn where a small window leaked moonlight. Her shawl slipped slightly off one shoulder, revealing pale skin underneath, too pale for someone who'd been walking in the sun. "Miss Lila," he said quietly, "you best sit. You'll make yourself sick." She turned then, and the light caught her face full on. For just an instant he thought he saw something beneath the surface of her skin. Shadows, scars, faint lines that didn't belong. But the next blink she looked normal again. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "Take the cloth off?" Cole blinked. "What?" She held his gaze, her expression unreadable. "The cloth," she whispered again. "Would you take it off?" He frowned, uncertain what she meant. "You want me to fetch a dry one?" Her head tilted slightly, a strand of wet hair clinging to her cheek. "No, this one." She lifted the edge of her shawl with shaking fingers. "Please, you should see." Something deep inside Cole shifted uneasily. The wind outside moaned through the cracks in the wood like a voice carried through time. "See what?" he asked. "The truth." Her tone was strange, neither frightened nor calm. More like someone remembering something that had already happened. Cole's throat tightened. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "if you've been hurt, I can help you. But I ain't about to do something improper." She smiled faintly, but it was the kind of smile that didn't touch her eyes. "You already did." His stomach dropped. "What did you just say?" "You already did, Cole." He froze where he stood. His name. He hadn't told her his name. The lantern light trembled again, bending her shadow long across the barn wall. He felt his pulse hammering in his ears.
"How do you know who I am?"
Lila's eyes glistened. "Because once you called my name in the dark. You held me when the fever took me, and when the coughing started. You promised you'd come back, Cole took a step back, shaking his head. No, that ain't possible. His chest tightened, breath coming fast. You can't be... Her shawl slipped further down, revealing the curve of her shoulder. The skin there was scarred, faintly ridged in the pattern of a burned mark. When the light struck it right, Cole saw it clear. The old M brand of the McGraw Ranch. His own cattle mark. His heart stopped. Lord have mercy. Lila reached up and let the shawl slide to the floor completely. It fell soundlessly, revealing a body crisscrossed with pale scars and burns. The faint outline of rope marks ghosted her wrists. Cole staggered backward, his voice breaking. I buried you. Yes, she said softly, taking a step forward. You buried me by the river. Lightning cracked through the sky, casting the barn in harsh white light for an instant. In that flash, her face changed, her features sharpening, hollowing. Her eyes turned almost black. Cole stumbled against the post, knocking over the lantern. The flame flickered wildly but didn't go out. I tried, he said, voice shaking. I swear, Lila, I tried to get help. The river was flooding. I couldn't. You left me, she said, her tone cold as the rain outside. You said you'd fetch the doctor. You never came back. Her steps were silent now as she moved closer. The shadows curled around her like smoke. I couldn't cross, Cole whispered. The bridge was gone. By the time I got to town, it was too late. You came back a week later, she said, her voice rising. You saw the cross by the water. You didn't even cry. He pressed his hand to his forehead, trembling. I didn't know what else to do. You were gone. There was nothing left but bones and mud. She stopped just a few feet away. The air grew cold enough that his breath fogged in front of him. Take the cloth off, she said again. He stared at her. The shawl was already on the ground, but as she lifted her arms, another layer seemed to peel away from her. Thin, translucent, like a veil of mist. Beneath it, her skin looked gray, flaking, her hair turning to strands of dark water. Stop, he gasped. Please. You wanted the truth, she whispered. Here it is. Her form shimmered and shifted, and suddenly he saw her as she had been. The young woman lying feverish on their bed, sweat beading on her brow. The way she'd reached for him weakly as he left that night, her voice echoing after him, faint and broken. Don't go, Cole. Stay with me. He had left. The rain had already started that night, and the creek was rising. He remembered the flash of lightning, the thunder, the fear. He had told himself he'd return with help by morning. He never did. Now she stood before him again, the ghost of that night made flesh. Lila. He breathed. I'm sorry. Sorry, she repeated softly, her voice trembling. I was cold, Cole, so cold. I waited. The lantern sputtered and went out, plunging the barn into darkness. Only the storm lit the world now, each flash of lightning illuminating her pale figure moving toward him. He backed up until his shoulders hit the barn wall. Please, he whispered. What do you want? She lifted her hand, her fingers trembling, gray skin glistening with moisture. You left me to the earth, she said. Now stay with me in it. He shook his head violently. No. Her hand brushed his cheek. The touch was ice sinking deep into his skin. He tried to move, but his legs wouldn't obey. The smell of wet earth filled his lungs. The sound of the river roared in his ears, though there was none nearby. He could feel the ground under his boots turning soft, giving way like the mud down by the riverbank. When the next lightning bolt cracked open the sky, the barn was empty. Only the echo of thunder answered. Come morning, his horse was found grazing near the creek, reins dragging in the grass. The barn door creaked on its hinges, half open as if someone had left in a hurry. Inside there was no sign of Cole McGraw, no footprints, no coat, not even his hat. Only a faded shawl lay in the dirt, damp and smelling faintly of the river. On the far wall where the lantern had burned low, someone or something had drawn a symbol in the dust, the McGraw brand. Down by the river, where the wildflowers grew thick among the reeds, a single hat rested on a fence post. The earth below it had been freshly disturbed, though no one dared to dig. And when the wind blew through that valley at night, locals swore they could hear her voice carried across the plains, soft and sorrowful, whispering, Take the cloth off, Cole. Then silence, only the river forever whispering its secrets to the dead.